Good afternoon. Here we are in the Ways and Means Committee. It's May 12th at 1 o'clock. We have a very full afternoon. We have S323 and then which is miscellaneous agricultural subjects. So we're going to look at one amendment, but then we're going to stay tuned for another amendment. So we'll vote on that ideally at the end of today, but maybe tomorrow morning. S198, where we have many a witness, which is miscellaneous tobacco products, or sorry, regulation tobacco products. And then we have the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill. And that is it so far. And then tomorrow we're going to take some testimony on the yield bill. And then we have a vote scheduled for S328. This is the housing bill that's been sitting here for a little bit. Any thoughts, questions? Okay. Bradley, can you join us in the witness chair?
Good morning or afternoon. Bradley Shomanoff, Legislative Counsel, and I am going over an amendment to S323 based on our conversation from last time. The first instance of amendment, the draft number is 2.1, and the date, I didn't update the date, but the date says 5/8/2016, that's correct, but the draft number is 2.1. The first instance of amendment here on line 7, we're changing just some clarification in the special fund section that sets up the special fund to make sure that the Cannabis Control Board can get all of the fees that are contemplated by the hemp sections.
I'm sorry, 1 second.
Basic question. I'm looking at draft 3.2, but you have.
It's a draft 2.2 of the 2.1 of the amendment.
2.1 of the amendment, yeah.
I think you have the bill.
Okay, all right.
Back to you.
And so this amends the special fund section in section 19 of the underlying bill that makes sure that all of the fees and civil penalties are being collected for hemp and then routed accordingly. And then section 16A is a new section to be added. And this would require some reporting on the fees by the Cannabis Control Board. So on or before January 15th, 2027, Cannabis Control Board shall submit to the appropriate committees of jurisdiction the following. A summary of all hemp fees in effect for fiscal year 2027, including any waivers, reductions, or alterations to the hemp fee schedule set forth in 7 VSA 858. So last time when we discussed this bill, there is some rulemaking provisions that do allow the Cannabis Control Board to waive or reduce fees for certain craft processors. Craft processors in the statute are left to be defined by the Cannabis Control Board, but they're meant to be small business craft processors. And so the Cannabis Control Board is given some authority to define what those processors are and then waive and reduce fees for them. And this would ask for reporting on what those reductions are. A summary of all the revenue derived from each fiscal year from each fee in fiscal year 2026, a comparison of fees in other jurisdictions, analysis of policies and trends that might affect the viability of the fee amount, and a recommendation regarding how the hemp fee schedules is set forth in 7 VSA 858 may be adjusted to better promote the intent of the General Assembly and to better support small business hemp producers and processors.
And right before we started, Pepper mentioned that he actually only needs this authority that he's reporting on for 1 year. And so Bradley's going to draft an amendment to repeal the authority after 1 year. Any questions about this? Pepper, is this okay with you?
Yes.
Thank you. Great.
And can I have the effective date for the appeal? The repeal of the fee authority?
January 28th. Am I doing that right? So, okay. Because this is
January 20th, 2020.
January
1st,
2028.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. And now it's 2026. Yes, great.
Sounds great.
Yes, Representative Odie.
What's the difference between a repeal and a sunset? Why wouldn't you have to sunset?
I think they're observational equivalents. And that's one of the things I need to go over when I draft the amendment is to get the best device to make sure that it's correct and it does what we need it to do.
I have no preference between the two.
Okay.
In fact, I thought they were the same thing. So,
We can extend the repeal.
what?
We don't extend repeal.
We don't extend repeals.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Thank you, Representative.
funsies. Whichever works better for you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a good one. Okay, we are gonna come back to this either at the end of the day today or tomorrow morning. And we are going to turn to S-198 with Jen Kirby, who we don't need because she already took us through the bill. We're gonna take our next. Watch me think out loud in real time, everyone.
Yes, sir. Bob.
Hello, Ted Burnett.
Hello, Ted Burnett, Joint Fiscal Office. There's going to be kind of a two-part series of this. First of all, talking a little bit about tax revenue for various tobacco product types to show recently high-level trends in those tax revenues, and then using this bill kind of as an excuse to do that. And then the second piece will be running through the fiscal note. I'm going to try and find. Okay. There we are. Sorry for the wait. So these are data from the Department of Taxes. There are a whole slew of different tax types for other kind of non-cigarettes. The main piece I want to talk about is kind of our distinction between e-cigarettes, new smokeless tobacco, which includes nicotine pouches, and then other tobacco products. And kind of high level talk about trends in overall cigarette and tobacco tax revenue. So first of all, overall trends, cigarette and tobacco tax revenue increased throughout the pandemic, right after the pandemic, and then subsided. Yes, so there are some theories on this.
Ooh.
One of which is that Massachusetts implemented a flavor ban right in the middle of the
yes.
pandemic, and there might have been some cross-border considerations involved with that. Also, yes. And then also, during the pandemic, there's kind of in
A
general.
lot of potato chips.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so other states, we saw this in other states that had adult use cannabis markets during the pandemic. There was a kind of a spike in tax revenue from there. So that was fun just to kind of see, before the pandemic and kind of now there is a year-over-year decline as cigarette consumption goes down and the tax revenues. We're starting to see that a bit. The other piece is you're really seeing a switch into non-cigarette tobacco products. So in fiscal year 2018, before e-cigarettes were taxed, other tobacco products that weren't cigarettes made up about a little bit more than 10% of overall cigarette and tobacco revenue. But by 2025, it was more than 36% of cigarette and tobacco tax revenue. So increased quite substantially. You can see within e-cigarettes, that was the first kind of leading product here, came into effect in FY 2020, increased rather substantially to FY 2023 to be about 12.5 million before declining in the succeeding fiscal years.
Things are being added up and I can't.
Yes, so they're being added. These, so the bold reflects the added up columns for each fiscal year. And then the number at the bottom is overall. And so the delta between let's say, let's do in fiscal year 2025, the difference between $67.4 million, which is overall cigarette and tobacco products, minus $24 million, which is the additive sum of all the non-bold numbers. The difference between those two numbers is basically cigarette tax revenue.
I can't actually tell what's bold and what's not, but I'm gonna look at it on my computer. and-
Ah, aha.
Oh, yeah.
Zoom in if, does that
Sorry
help?
about that.
Great, yep.
Great.
helps.
Okay. Sorry to take everyone else along that, maybe. It was just me.
Really good. Glad I can zoom in.
We're all
Sorry,
good.
sure.
Okay, great.
So that's the difference. And yes, as e-cigarette tax revenue has declined in fiscal year 24 and 25, you see a rather strong jump in new smokeless tobacco products, which this is primarily nicotine pouches. That increased from $1.4 million in 2023 to $4 million in 2025.
Did category 3 disappear?
So that's
Or
suppressed.
2?
Yes, there are not enough filers for category 3 cigarettes.
Oh, but it still exists as a category.
Yep. What I did not show here is I really had to work to get this all on one page. Theoretically, new smokeless tobacco that is sold in quantities greater than 1.2 ounces is subject to it's tax per ounce, and that tax amount is $2.57 in line with snuff here. I don't show it because it was either suppressed or when it wasn't suppressed, it was at $0. So there's nothing in that category. So just wanted to present kind of the trends in more recently how nicotine pouches, they are being taxed under new smokeless tobacco. And the revenue from that category has increased quite a bit in the past couple of years and is seemed to be taking some revenue away from cigarettes. The fun part is that those are mostly context. The bill is adjusting some definitions, but that is intended to keep the tax treatment the same. Basically, the bill was making changes to definitions to give liquor and lottery the ability to regulate the full scope of products, but while making those changes, wanted to make sure the tax treatment wasn't changed.
So nothing is leaping from one category to another.
Nope.
Okay.
Yep.
And what's the two different categories for cigars?
It depends on the wholesale price per cigar. So category 1 is a wholesale price of $2.17 or less. Category 2 is $2.18 up to $9.99. And then category 3 is cigars that their wholesale price is more than $10. And that information is supplied on page 2 of the document that I shared with the committee, and I can share my screen again. I probably jumped out of it a little too quickly.
Since we don't deal with this that often, 92% of wholesale?
So whatever the wholesale price is, this is one of the main reasons that the Department of Taxes was licensure of wholesale tobacco dealers was at the Department of Taxes, because a lot of these taxes are assessed at the wholesale level. So it's 92% of the wholesale price.
Tobacco, we don't spend all that much time with sin taxes, especially those that we don't have local industries. Very different.
Being in retail, that number jumps out at me.
Any other questions for Ted? Thanks.
Moving on to the fiscal note.
Great.
Yes.
I kept up with myself this week, guys.
So this bill, the primary fiscal impact is there are changes to retail tobacco licensing fees. So this is retailers who are selling tobacco products. There are two. One is a license to sell tobacco, and then license to sell tobacco substitutes. There's a substitute endorsement here. As Jen walked you all through yesterday, the bill would decouple. So previously, if you were a retailer and you were selling both tobacco products and you had a liquor license to sell liquor products, you would receive both licenses separately, but for the price of the liquor license. So this bill would decouple those, so you'd be paying both the tobacco licensure fee and the liquor fee. And so that difference, it also simultaneously, the bill increases the fee amount from $110 to $150. This is a rough approximation of inflation since the last time they were changed, I believe in 2016. The difference, the amount of revenue, so you would move, there's only information from the Department of Liquor and Lottery. Currently, only about 50 retailers are paying for the tobacco license. When you decouple, approximately 780 would pay the fee. So in combination of increasing the base number of people who are paying and the fee amount, the amount of additional revenue is about $110,000.
Are you assuming that everyone who has a liquor license will get a tobacco license, or are you assuming that everyone who sells tobacco will get a tobacco license?
Everyone who currently is receiving their tobacco license but not paying for it, just continuing that forward. I don't, at that additional fee amount, I don't anticipate any behavior change or anything like that. The second line is there's a tobacco substitute endorsement. That fee amount increases from $50 to $75. It nets a little additional revenue. Everyone who had that substitute endorsement had to get they were paying for it. So there's not a change in the number of people who are paying.
That's like an e-cigarette?
Yes, anything that's a substitute, which would include, e-cigarettes. And so starting in FY27, these changes are effective in FY27. The amount of additional revenue through those two changes is about $125,000. The bill would also move wholesale tobacco licensure from the Department of Taxes, from the Department of Taxes to the Department of Liquor and Lottery. And the fee is currently $0 of the Department of Taxes. It would be changed to $1,245, which is in line for the license for liquor wholesalers. And so that would raise about $50,000 based on the information we have on the number of wholesalers, which is about 40. And so starting in FY28, that'd be an additional $50,000. So in total, about $175,000. That revenue would flow to the Liquor Control Enterprise Fund, which transfers money in the budget to the general fund. So that's the main fiscal change. We talked a little bit in the context of 323 about administrative fines and penalties. JFO does not forecast the impact of fines and penalties. Administrative penalties would go, the revenue from those go to the board and then the Liquor Control Enterprise Fund. And then, yes, there are some civil penalties that are handled by the judiciary. The revenue from those currently minus a $12.50 administrative fee that's allocated to the Court Technology Special Fund would flow to the general fund. And then there is language that would allow the Attorney General, it would allow them to, like, if they had a settlement with someone who's found to be violating laws, they would receive that money would go to the a special fund, the AG fees and reimbursements, court order special fund, and that has a few different directions.
Sorry if you just said that, but do you anticipate that the Department of Taxes is going to see a reduction in costs, or the Department of Liquor and Lottery is going to see an increase in their operating costs?
Not a huge amount. There might be small amounts, but I don't think it's like an FTE.
I can count.
Okay, we'll get there.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that's essentially it. There are a couple reports that are in the fiscal note. One, the Tobacco Enforcement Capacity Report. It does require reporting on whether the state's enforcement is kind of in line with whether staffing is sufficient to cover enforcement. And it, so if the report comes back and indicates that more enforcement is needed, additional positions, et cetera, that could indicate policy changes that would have a fiscal impact. And then there is a report on taxation of tobacco substitutes and the use of tax stamps, and that could tee up a whole set of conversations that would have fiscal impact. So wanted to flag that those two reports are in the bill, and depending on the findings of it, could put policy propose policy changes that would come through this committee.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions and I'm not sure if they should be directed to you, Ted, or not. One is with these tobacco substitutes. Did the committee of jurisdiction take testimony to the detrimental effects of that sort of stuff like nicotine, or are there other substances mixed in there that we should know about? Maybe the committee of jurisdiction knows, but I don't. I'm just curious.
I can't comment on the testimony that was taken in previous committees. I think there are a couple other, maybe there's other witnesses who were part of the conversation, but yeah, I would encourage you to talk with committees.
Representative Muslim, I didn't line up any testimony on whether tobacco is good or bad or substitute
I
for
would-
good or bad.
I would just.
That's like once we open that door, we're gonna
I
have.
have no problem with what's in the bill.
Yeah.
So do you know, or should I wait for Commissioner Knight on the number of licenses that are currently for liquor licenses, for retail liquor licenses? Because if we only have 780, 730 have no access fee under a current law, just wondering what percent of the total liquor licenses actually have a license to sell drugs.
Yes, and these numbers are for people who only have tobacco. Right, the Venn diagram in the middle, there are people who would have only liquor license, people who have only tobacco licenses. So the 730 of them are in the middle of that Venn diagram. I would defer to the commissioner on if she has any data on the number of current, and I could follow up and find that information if she doesn't have it.
Has that information?
I do have that information. Thank you for the assist.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Or Ted? Thank you. I think, yeah. But you don't mind, I'm gonna have you go before Todd, because I think you'll provide
I
context
think
here.
it's a nice segue after,
Yeah,
because I can answer the questions the committee's been asking.
thank you.
My name is Wendy Knight. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Liquor and Lottery. Nice to see you all again. Happy to be here to talk about S198. This has been a months-long collaboration between the Department of Health, Tax, and the Attorney General's Office. So we are very pleased with where we are. This bill really provides a stronger regulatory framework for the department to regulate tobacco, and it has some important consumer protection provisions to regulate the unregulated products. I'm just going to talk quickly about some of the revenue-related key provisions. Tobacco license substitute endorsement. So right now we have tobacco retailers must hold a license to sell tobacco as well as a tobacco substitute endorsement if they wish to sell those products, such as vape pouches. There are currently, as Ted Barnett described, there are 780 tobacco licensees right now. 520 of those also hold a tobacco substitute endorsement. To the question, I do not have the total number of alcohol. What I have is of the 780 tobacco licensees, 730 also have liquor licenses. I want to offer something that's really clarifying. We don't offer a buy one, get one free, okay? With the tobacco and the liquor licenses, the current statute directs DLL to not assess an application fee for a tobacco license when they also apply for a liquor license. So the bill changes that. We've heard that as decoupling. It's separated. So the bill separates a tobacco license from a liquor license. And all of the tobacco licenses, we will, regardless of the liquor license paradigm, regardless of whether they have a liquor license, all of them will be subject to the new fee, which is $150. The tobacco substitute fee is being raised from in the bill to $75, and that historically was $50. So we're going from $100 to $150 for the tobacco license, making it apply to all of the tobacco licenses, and then going from 50 to 75 for the endorsements. I think we have all collectively worked really hard on the fees. Initially, when the bill was proposed, there were pretty substantial fees for the licenses.
Bucks, right?
Yes, which we opposed to. Obviously, the Retail Grocers Association weren't in favor of that. And so we've arrived at something that's more or less inflation adjusted. That term isn't in there, but it's in a good place. So we
I think Ted
appreciate.
said inflation adjusted.
Okay, great. Thank you. I used the right term. Of note, the bill, just to give you a sense of our licensing process. April 30th is the deadline to process all of our tobacco licenses. That has happened. So when you look at the revenue that's projected, don't anticipate that until May 2027, because all of the licenses renewed May 1st are for a year. So I just wanted to make that point. So the wholesale licensure, you've heard testimony. Obviously, we're moving it from the tax to our department, which makes sense. We had proposed that in the fall to the tax department and the Attorney General's office, because right now, when you have tax, licensing the wholesaler isn't really licensing it. They don't collect a fee. And because it's privileged tax information, the department, as the regulator, doesn't actually get to see that information. So it makes a whole lot of sense for a number of reasons to move that to the department. The 1,000, what is the fee in the bill? $12.45, thank you. $1,245 is the proposed fee for the tobacco wholesaler. That is the same fee that we have for our liquor wholesaler. So that made sense to us. And that changed, moving the licensing of tobacco wholesalers from the tax department to the Department of Liquor and Lottery will take place July 1, 2027. So you won't see those revenues until FY 28.
You better help me understand like what, how the state is like a safer place because of you taking this over.
How would it a safer? Well, we'll have a much stronger regulatory framework, right? So now we will have all of the wholesale tobacco wholesalers will be obvious because all our information is public. Unlike the tax department, it's not public. So it'll make it easier when we go into retail stores to understand who is a licensed wholesaler. So when we do our compliance checks, it will be that much more obvious to our investigators whether or not the products
In the store.
Pardon me?
Whether the things in the store.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Let's,
Yeah.
You're currently doing those investigations now.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yep. I have data on that. So we have 2,000, so we do those compliance checks. Right now, we're directed by statute to conduct compliance checks of tobacco licenses. And that's obviously to make sure that the retailers are not selling these products to minors, just like we do on the liquor side, right? So we go in and do these statutorily required tobacco compliance checks to make sure that minors aren't being sold. In 2025, we did 679 compliance checks on tobacco, 59 failures. So the Board of Liquor and Lottery currently right now, we have the authority to administer administrative penalties and take administrative action for violations of tobacco laws. Our nexus is with the licensees, right? We license businesses and then we can issue penalties and further actions. It's the holder of the licensee. This is separate from what's identified in statute, which outlines civil penalties assessed to an individual who sells them. So when a civil penalty is issued to the individual clerk that sells illegally the tobacco, we also are administering the administrative fine in the administrative action. And that's codified in this this bill. So, any other questions? Yes.
Just wondering about the number of liquor licenses as it compares to the number of tobacco licenses, thinking about how many have chosen not to sell tobacco. Historically, where's the trend? Just thinking about that.
Don't actually know. So the liquor license that would sell tobacco is a second class license. So what I would have to give you is the total number of second class licenses we have. A second class license we issue to a retailer to sell alcohol. Would that's the number you're asking for?
Yeah,
Because then we would understand 780 tobacco licenses, then you get a sense of, right.
Anyone like, Eric?
Don't have that.
A number of pharmacies sell liquor and like at some point, like set up, I think, a corporate policy about not selling tobacco because it's bad for you. So
Yeah. And a number of our second class licenses are in, wine shops. They don't sell tobacco.
I was just curious where that trend is to see.
I can give you the number of second class licenses that you can then understand the 780 tobacco license.
I guess my only other question is, would this result in the owner of a retail establishment having fewer people to have to report to, or is it about the same? You know what I mean? Oftentimes a
I don't.
convenience store will say, I've got 10 different divisions of state government coming in to see if my weights and measures are right, labor's here, this is here, this here. Does this result in fewer contacts for that?
Well, they won't. No,
Oh, okay.
No.
Just hoping that was a benefit of this.
of this, not that I'm aware of. I mean, the wholesaler is now going to be regulated by us.
Yeah.
So they're going to be submitting their application through our portal as opposed to tax. But anyone that has a business in the state has to be registered with the Secretary of State's office. They have to pay taxes, if they are serving food, they got to do with the health department. Like, if they want to sell liquor or tobacco, they need a license from us.
Yeah, briefly, in answer to Representative Kimball's question. Dan Witz, where decided not to sell any tobacco products a few years ago. Incidentally, they also did away with megabucks and that stuff at the same time. Just FYI for the committee, but I wouldn't be surprised if that trend happens here and there. Time to time, it's just we're not going to do this anymore. So they sell beer and wine. That's all fine. Anyway, that's all. Thanks.
Any other questions for Commissioner Knight? Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're gonna go to the Attorney General's office and then to the Department of Taxes. And Commissioner Knight, you had some very nice notes you were reading from. Are you able to send those to Scotia?
Yeah.
Thank
Put
you.
them in the memo and send them.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, afternoon. I knew it at first. Todd Davis, Assistant Attorney General. Thank you so much for having me. And really thank you for taking up S-198. As Commissioner Knight indicated, this is a multi-month long collaborative process. You are our sixth committee, which is thrilling, and more than happy to provide testimony, but mostly want to answer your questions. Commissioner Knight, I think, stated it very well. It's been a good collaboration among tax, DLL, the AGO, and of course, working closely with advocates to work. Our main focus here is to prevent youth use of tobacco products. And so folks from Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, the Lung Association, American Cancer Society, all very important partners in this work as well. So don't do two things at once. Knowing the scope of House Ways and Means, I want to narrow what I'm going to talk about here, but I do want to give you a little bit broader context. I know Jen Carby walked you through the bill overall. And as I said, from our perspective, I think Liquor and Lottery has described the administrative changes that are going to potentially take place under this bill. Those are very valuable in terms of the administrative process, regulation, et cetera. From our perspective, the real push here is about a public health initiative. The Attorney General's office, of course, for the last almost 30 years has been heavily involved in tobacco regulation based on the lawsuits that former Attorney General Bill Sorrell and before him, Jeff Amestoy, joined the big tobacco lawsuits. And so we regulate, and really it's my colleague, Assistant Attorney General Rose Kennedy, is the enforcer of the Master Settlement Agreement. That's how the AGO is involved in tobacco, and that Master Settlement Agreement every year brings the state of Vermont roughly $25 million. That said, part of the goal of the Master Settlement Agreement is also to ensure that we're diligently enforcing our tobacco laws, and part of that is recognizing the evolving nature of the tobacco market. And we have seen the increase in use of vapes. We've seen now nicotine pouches and other things. And part of the goal of this legislation is to focus on making sure our regulations and our laws these products and begin treating those products as traditional cigarettes and tobacco products are treated. Along with that, we're seeing alarming trends in the availability of certain products. And here, if I can bring it up, I just want to very quickly show you these new, what we call deceptive devices, which are really these vapes that look like toys. They look like cameras. They look like clothing.
Oh, it's like attached to the,
It's the dongle. I don't know what you call that, the thing you pull to tighten it, but it's not. Some of the most alarming ones you'll hear about are gamified vapes, where you're playing a vape game and it take 2 puffs to power up, right? So you're combining, and the public health folks could talk about this. I know it's not the jurisdiction of the committee, but I think it's important to understand the motivation, certainly from our office's perspective and some of the other advocates' perspective. I think all of our motivation actually is about these, right? You're getting the dopamine from playing the video game and you're linking it with the nicotine or the nicotine substitute. So this bill would prohibit these devices. And we've had in other committees, the devices that have been seized from schools, also very alarming to see. I'm just looking around the table. Other committees have, traditional highlighters. Some of the vapes look like that yellow highlighter right there. They look like notebooks.
I have a constituent that once a year brings me an enormous pile of the confiscated.
Yeah. So I don't need to belabor it, but I just wanted to show you.
How much does like the smartwatch one cost?
I actually don't know. And I'm not, I think vapes run maybe $25 to $30. And of course, it depends. Is it a single use vape? Is it one that you can refill? Yeah. Rose.
Do you identify yourself for the record?
Sorry, Rose Kennedy, Assistant Attorney General.
Thank you.
So that's a big piece of the motivator here. The other piece is, as Commissioner Knight indicated, improving some of the enforcement. I don't have the charts on this, but you've seen, right, some of the tobacco revenues coming down. But we understand that usage rates, especially youth usage rates, are either staying high or increasing. And overall usage rates are increasing. And so we have concerns too that from a very nuts and bolts revenue-based conversation, we're missing some of that revenue. You heard Commissioner Knight talk about moving wholesale licensure over to the Department of Liquor and Lottery. We think that's a fine idea. It's important to understand how taxation works. And I don't want to wade too far into it. We have folks from the tax department. They're the experts in this area. And you'll hear from them. But one of the simplest things, and it's also, take your mind back to US history, take your mind back to the Boston Tea Party, right, was a revolt against stamps, right? It was tax stamps. We still use that technology for cigarettes. So if you haven't been acquainted with a pack of cigarettes in a while, or maybe ever, the bottom of a pack of cigarettes has the tax stamp on it. And interestingly, that tax stamp has value. Sort of like, I think I can look around the table and feel comfortable in saying, like when we used to put a stamp on a letter that had a value, right? And in fact, and again, I defer to tax on this, my understanding anecdotally is when the 2023 flood came through, and maybe Irene in 11 as well, one of the first things they did at the tax building was make sure they got the tax stamps out of the basement so they didn't get wet and destroyed because they have actual monetary value. But just that is the technology that exists today, right? Is a dollar value stamp that gets placed on every pack of cigarettes that gets sold in the state of Vermont. And it does two things. It ensures that the taxes were paid, and it ensures that that pack of cigarettes was purchased from a licensed wholesaler, because only licensed wholesalers have those stamps. So when an enforcement authority goes into a store and they look at the cigarette case, immediately they can see visually, okay, tax has been paid on that pack of cigarettes, and we're certain that it came from a licensed wholesaler, came through the appropriate regulatory channel. That's a lot of what this bill does. What we're asking, and it's the only thing we want to ask about this bill, we love the bill, otherwise we think the bill's great, is that we extend that stamping requirement to additional products, including the vapes, including the pouches, including the smokeless tobacco, including roll your own. Because that way, when an inspector or somebody comes into the store, as opposed to saying, okay, we got to go into the back room, let's look at the invoice, let's see, did you get it from a licensed wholesaler? Great, what are the products? Let's go back out, let's look and make sure taxes were paid on this. Instead, it's a simple visual cue. Great idea. And it's not that simple. And I think if you heard from industry, especially the wholesalers, they will tell you cigarettes are all the same size. It's easy. We got the machines that existed for a long time, run it through the conveyor belt, cuts the bottom of the carton off, throws a stamp on every single one, reseals the carton, we're done. Anything that's not a uniform size can't use the existing technology. So our proposal to the committee is to say, let's look at this, and the AG is willing to be the one leading this study together with liquor and lottery and tax to look at how to do stamping. And let's still require stamping 2.5 years from now. So there's time to study it. There's time for the Department of Taxes to figure out any regulations around it and work on how those stamps can be created. You got to do an RFP, you got to order the stamps. There's a long process there. And then let's give industry time to be ready to comply. Vermont would be the first to require tax stamps on these non-uniform products. That said, we're aware of product potentially coming to market that is sort of what I would call, and Rose will correct me if I'm wrong here, a true e-cigarette. It's an electronic device that heats actual tobacco. That, under existing law pretty much across the country under the MSA, the Master Settlement Agreement, is a cigarette, and therefore will have to be stamped. So we are coming to the point where we're going to have a non-uniform sized product that operates similarly to an electronic cigarette or vape that is going to need a stamp on it. And what we're proposing to this committee and to the legislature is, let's have Vermont lead on this one. Let's have Vermont say, 2.5 years from now, we want you to figure out the technology to put a sticker on a box. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to respond to other questions about the bill within.
Given that we had our walkthrough last week, which feels like 12 years ago. Maybe it feels like yesterday to everyone else, I'm not sure. I just want to sort of clarify where we are with you, if that's possible. So right now we're studying it. We need to act again to make the stamp, and you're asking us to study and stamp in the future based on however that study says to stamp.
Correct, though the language we proposed would simply include other tobacco products and new smokeless tobacco, which are the two Title 32 tax terms for additional non-cigarette products. There's some exemptions there in the stamping requirement. The Commissioner of Taxes already has regulatory authority to make rules in certain instances there. And of course, there's ample opportunity for this body to come back and either push that deadline out or otherwise change it in the intervening biennium.
I can't remember, a couple of years ago, did we in the House pass something that prohibited vaping for kids and menthol. What exactly did we do?
So the legislature passed S 18, which was a flavor ban that included some other bans. And it was subsequently vetoed by the governor, did not take effect.
So where are flavors?
They are not included.
Oh,
Not part of the
flavors.
conversation.
This is the prohibition here. It's a great question. The prohibition is really about these devices that are made to look like not vapes or cigarettes or other tobacco products. They're made to,
Devices.
it's the deceptive devices that are really about hiding them from adults and being attractive to children.
So it's not about telling adults what to do.
They can't buy them either, but adults couldn't buy these deceptive devices either. We're just saying they shouldn't. They're,
You buy them in other states.
yes.
And the whole administration is all in on this.
Well,
I can't speak for the governor.
we're gonna hear from the tax department after that. So the bill as passed, it sounded like Commissioner Knight supported.
The bill has passed. Right?
The bill as arrived in this committee, Commissioner Knight was just speaking in favor of it while she was sitting here. Yeah.
I haven't heard any opposition from any element of the administration on the deceptive devices.
The language that Todd has brought to us, there might be some disagreement. We'll hear from the tax department after Todd is done.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I'm just wondering about online purchases and the ability of the AG's office to regulate that.
So 7 VSA 1010 is a sale and delivery ban that prevents, and there's some new language that has passed through. I think it came either in House Commerce or House Human Services that makes it a little clearer, but it is unlawful. And I think Jen walked through this on Friday, again, 12 years ago. It is unlawful for anyone to purchase, or really it's unlawful for anyone to ship any product, tobacco product, through the mail that was ordered by mail, phone, or internet. Unless, and this is the new language that clarifies it, there's a change that goes in two directions. It makes it clear that retailers can't order online. That's a change. And they can order online if they order from a licensed wholesaler. So we're just making it clear the only way, again, we wanted to go through that new DLL run wholesaler, licensed wholesaler. And I can go into more of this, but it seems like it's outside the direct jurisdiction, which is, and Rose is really the expert on this. You know, when vapes were originally sort of introduced, the FDA has authority to say yes or no to a product. I think it's 6 million, how many?
6 million applications.
6 million applications for vapes and under 100 approvals to date. And that's over 10 years. So there's a lot of the product on the shelf is technically illegal. But the FDA has taken the position that if there's a pending application, they won't enforce to prevent. So that's.
And I get the thing about the wholesale license, because why would you buy one if people could go around you and circumvent you? It wouldn't be worth the investment. But I guess my question more is, how do you have a sense of how much product is ordered online delivered to the states that you can't currently regulate?
Yeah, so there was, the health department contracts with an organization that does surveys, and I think, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I'm happy to provide it. In 2025, the survey suggested that youth, I think somewhere between 20 and 30% who were purchasing product were purchasing it direct online. And so we do, working with the Department of Liquor and Lottery, look to enforce in that space. That's one of Rose's main tasks. And so, you know, they sort of send people in, both in the same way that they send compliance checks in and they send people in secret buyers. They also are doing that online to see who will ship product to Vermont. And 2 years ago, we had a settlement with Amazon and got $400,000 because they were permitting violation of that. It's hard though. I don't want to sugarcoat it. Those websites disappear and reappear very quickly.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Abby, next up, thanks.
Thank you, Abby Shepherd, Department of Taxes. I have a few things I'd like to respond to that you brought up, your question in particular about costs. I hadn't prepared like an exact dollar number. And I just followed up with our COO about how much this division within our department costs to administer. And the last time that we did a sort of tax type by tax type estimation of the cost to administer was about 10 years ago. So it's not super up-to-date information, but you could sort of scale that from 2017. It was about 0.7% of our total budget. So this isn't, the biggest division in our department. It's one of our what we call miscellaneous taxes. So it's not a big cost for us to administer. We also don't anticipate shifting wholesale licensing to DLL will change any of that cost, but I can follow up to make sure that that's totally accurate with our division. Because we will still be administering the tax piece. This just shifts more the licensing and enforcement. Great. So the other big issues that you're looking at, we are fine with the language as it came out of House Human Services. We are neutral and support that. Neutral support. We are fine with it the way it's drafted. It doesn't pose any more technical concerns. At one point, the bill, as it came over from the Senate, seemed to have some conflicting language. And we think that's all cleared up with the Human Services. For our tax purposes, we just want it to be clear that nicotine pouches in particular, if you remember last year, it was something we discussed, that tax treatment is clear. And then the Human Services language is is fine for us. I think it's very clear that as under current law.
To be clarified, that miscellaneous tax last year, was that what it was?
I think that was the final vehicle. And that was also around more of the artificial products that they were being taxed as new smokeless tobacco, but we wanted it to be clear, have the language be absolutely ironclad. Also, the way that it's drafted coming out of Human Services, it clears up sort of a theoretical possibility that if a nicotine pouch didn't exactly meet the new smokeless tobacco sort of moisture content or packaging, that it could theoretically be taxed as other tobacco products, and the language out of Human Services will make it always subject to new smokeless tobacco tax. So that would be for this year. We're on board with that. We're happy about the shift. We're fine with the shift of wholesale licensing to DLL. As for the study, we are all aligned absolutely on the need for a study. We really appreciate the AGO taking the lead on this and pointing out some big industry changes, product changes. We also would appreciate if they were taking over the study, as it's more within their sort of policy and substantive expertise more than, we're happy to collaborate and provide our tax information, but we're not, driving more on the tobacco policy there. In terms of enacting a new stamp tax ahead of the study, we would prefer to wait. We would like to be able to have time to study this and then consider new legislation. I do see in the language that was posted, there doesn't seem to be any change in the definitions for new smokeless tobacco or for other tobacco products. So, that's something certainly we could bring up in the study, just ensuring that current tax treatment is also addressed. Just the way that the language is that's online would appear to create a double taxation situation, which we would assume was not the intent. So just would point out those sort of more technical changes. And again, this is something we would definitely point out and want to provide in the study on stamp taxing is a concern for us about having a stamp on like cigarette products are all produced in a very uniform package. If we have all sorts of different types of packaging, our concern is about the ability for a stamp to show that the correct amount of tax is paid, as opposed to just some amount of tax was paid. So it's more of a policy decision there. Do you want just something saying, yes, someone paid some amount of tax, as opposed to the correct amount of tax? We also would recommend that you hear from wholesalers about feasibility. Again, because of the different product and packaging, different products that are out there, we don't know how quickly they would be able to adapt, and our concern would be products coming on the market and being purchased that are not being taxed, because we are not going through the typical process, which right now is almost entirely manual. It's funny that Todd brought up the stamps. That was actually before I started at tax. I have heard sort of lore about the flood, and one of the most important things for the department was moving those rolls of stamps, which are thousands, maybe millions, worth a lot of money, and getting them out of the building while it was flooding. So right now, most of the products that are getting stamps are being stamped by a machine. And typically we are selling stamps in rolls of 30,000 stamps. So it's about almost $100,000 for a roll of one of those stamps. So we would just recommend that you hear from the industry if you do want to move forward with creating a stamp tax immediately. We don't want to speak for them. But our understanding is that it would be difficult to really have a stamp that represents that the correct amount of tax has been paid. Yeah, and I think those are all of our main points, and I'd be happy to look into what, costs would be of shifting from us. We will continue to do all of the tax administration, but I can see if we can come up with a number for you of if it will actually save us money by shifting licensing to DLL. I don't think it would change a position or anything along.
If you don't think it would change a position, then like that's enough. We don't need like $5 increments of your budget. Any questions for Abby?
Just to restate, thank you, what you may have heard, I don't know when you were in the room, I think this structural realignment stuff makes perfect sense. And the changing of the taxes.
Jim, I can't hear you at all. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think the structural realignment that was discussed earlier makes good sense, and my only questions, and they may not be directed to you, are basically policy questions about the bad stuff and other kinds of tobacco. But I assume before we finish up with this bill, we'll have at least a few minutes from somebody on that. Is that sufficiently loud so you can
Who did you want to have a few seconds from?
say again?
Who do you want to have a few minutes from?
I just want to make sure that the committees of jurisdiction took time on the bad effects on tobacco substitutes, and that's been covered. And assuming it's been covered, don't need another witness.
I believe it has been covered quite abundantly, but I can get the reporter from the
Just-
committee to come over.
That would probably be excellent. The reporter could cover. it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are you going to get the reporter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Percent of Fulcrum.
Not sure who the right person is, but, and I don't need any prior testimony impact or anything, but is the stamp system that we're doing resilient to change? I mean, I know sometimes we come up with a way of regulating for a specific purpose, but then it's not amenable to other purposes. So for example, if we decided that bubble gum vape was a bad thing, could that be attached to that stamp?
I think that's exactly what this study is for and what we're interested in diving into more and hearing about what other states are considering as well. Certainly it's a very new products, new things are coming on the market all the time.
The
So
technology is amenable across that once you shift to a stamp.
for at the moment, the stamp is very limited to the products that it is able to be very precise. These are all uniform packaging. It would need some sort of change.
And so you're studying it in order to understand what technology would be needed to really.
I think that will be a bigger part of this.
I think this is within bounds. I'm trying to envision what a roll of stamps looks like. Okay,
I don't know if we can, I could also.
We've been really, all the other committees are going on field trips. All the other committees are like field trips.
I've never seen them personally and I actually would like to, so maybe I.
I mean, I know what the actual stamp looks like.
no, so that's part of the issue, that I don't.
It's like,
Yeah, I have a vision of what it looks like, but I'm just trying to think that because it's all printed with the right dollar amount, that's why it has value, because if somebody gets it, then they could say, hey, I've got $1 million worth of these prepaid stamps, I'm gonna sell them for you for $800,000. So they're sent to the manufacturer that can apply the stamps onto the boxes. And uniform size machines and everything else. That's what you're trying to figure out.
yes, and there is a process to do it manually. They're in sheets of 600 and those are not used very often. Typically it's for corrections. So, and those are manual and that's part of our
Or
concern.
like some French cigarettes come in very fancy packaging that's different than the standard cigarette box size. Not that I would.
Heard of several.
From like high school. Yes.
I'm just curious, I would imagine there are counterfeit stamps that you have to deal with. Or liquor and tobacco deals with.
I'm not, don't know. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but that's not something that I'm familiar with. Possible.
Maybe.
Let's finish our questions for Abby and then we can ask the stamps for advice. Yeah.
Abby, when is the study coming back?
I'm sorry.
When will the study come back?
I believe it is 2027, but I'm sorry,
I kept saying 2.5 years.
Jen is also looking. Abby, Jen is looking.
June 15, 2027.
And will you,
Jen Kirby, Office of Legislative Counsel.
thank you, sorry. Like for the day? Really? No, that's a bummer. Sure. Okay, or like anyone? Any other questions for? I am, since he brought up the tax stamp thing, it seems like it doesn't actually, if the stamps are destroyed, it's not that like the tax firm is losing value because they only have value when you sell them, right? Like they only have value because you've imbued with them with value by selling them. And someone else has bought them for value. It's not like you bought them from anyone.
and you do have a contract to have to print them. So
Yeah, but like that's just the cost of production.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't actually matter. It's my thought that's the case. Okay. It's a very dramatic image, so I like it. Any other questions for Abby? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's the problem is that field trip time is usually also like when they're processing all the tax returns and they really don't want us around. Or all the taxes, not just the returns. Representative Page, you had a compliance question? Yes?
No.
Oh,
No, just curious
No,
about.
just curious.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get the reporter from Human Services to say that they think this is good for kids.
For my. future business.
Right, exactly. We're gonna have a going in the park.
Oh, hi, Dan. Would you join us from the chair? I'm sorry to not warn you about this at all. Representative Maslin was wondering if you all had taken sufficient testimony about the tobacco bill. On its health effects.
Whether, nice to see you, whether or not the other products are as bad for kids as just plain nicotine that we grew up with. And the committee is satisfied that due diligence was done on that sort of stuff.
So for the record, Dan Noyes from Woolkit. So your question is did we take testimony on like cigarettes and tobacco products?
Cigarettes, cigars, that's old news
Yeah.
at this point. But there are new products out there that are being asked,
So like Zyn and
all that sort of stuff.
Yes,
So
we have.
You're convinced that Department of Health is doing its job correctly. We need worry further or something to that.
yeah, so we definitely we're interested in how we can be proactive. So we've taken testimony and actually raised the age to 21. We've done some other things around tobacco cessation, and then making sure that youth who are using the product have access to what they need to be able to quit. So yes, and we tried to build into the bill some language that it gives the department the ability to deal with new products coming out quicker, because as I don't know if you've heard, I mean, there's these like vapes that are video games, and as you play the video game, you get points, and then you get to places where you have to take a vape in order to go to the next level or get points or something, I don't know. Totally geared towards children. So, when new products come out like highlighters or hoodies where the string is something that you could vape out of, we need to be proactive on making sure that these products that are marketed towards children we can deal with them pretty quick. I hope that answers your question.
Adequately, better than I expected. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you so much for coming over
Yeah,
here.
thanks for having me.
Really appreciate that.
All right, I thought you were going to ask something.
So I guess we have a question before us about the AG's office brought this idea to us. The tax department does not like the idea. Discuss.
I don't see anything wrong with it, Madam Chair.
With what?
The stamp thing. It's gonna be pretty easy to use and easy to identify. You know, fake stamp. Well, I guess it would be like a fake dollar bill, wouldn't it? Some of them are gonna be better than others.
Like, I think we're already using the stamps. I think it's whether or not it's the idea that we would change the stamps. They would need to develop new stamps for the new products. And if we want to put that in statute before they've actually figured out how to do it.
And the new products are these games and clothes and.
Yeah.
Just
Would you like to come testify?
Sure.
Okay, great.
To clarify, that's Kennedy again from the AG's office. There are no stamps for any nicotine pouches as it is current.
Yes.
So we're not just talking about state stamps for the deceptive devices you saw, but all of these products that involve nicotine that are not, they're taxed at the 92% rate, but there is not a stamp that actually shows easily that that tax has been paid. Sorry.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So the proposal would be for all those stamps or no?
So the proposal, as I understood it, was, so the bill as it came to us, everyone is in agreement. There's lots of great regulatory changes, changes of jurisdiction, changes of fees. Everyone agrees to that. And everyone agrees to study how to implement stamps for all these other products. The first question for us is, are we interested in having an amendment drafted that goes one step further and says, we will definitely institute stamps for all these other products at a date certain, though we don't quite know what that will look like yet because the study hasn't been completed. Representative Holcomb, I think, had your hand up before.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if there's a virtue in and this goes back to the consistency thing. If we have a consistent way of regulating and taxing something, it's easier to manage, it's easier to predict if it's consistent. I'm also mindful of the fact that anything meaningful we do takes a long time because it's not just changing the laws, preparing people and teeing them up. And so if we know we're going to stamps, it doesn't seem a bad thing to me to signal that it's coming, even if we haven't worked out all the details, because it lets retailers know in advance that that transition is. You're going to give us an example of what it was.
Thank you. Connor found them for me. They weren't in his pocket, just in case anyone was having any judgment of Connor. Representative Holcomb, I appreciate, so is that sort of we should study and figure this out first?
No, it was the other.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I
Representative.
agree with Representative Holcomb, maybe for some different reasons, but basically we have everybody on board now and I would like to see, well, everybody's on board. Saying, once that study is complete, we'll go ahead. We can always go back and bring it up again, but at least we'll have this stuff.
So I appreciate that. I don't think everyone's on board with doing that. So that's.
Oh, right, excuse me, but
Okay.
I think it's enough for me,
Okay.
enough for me on board.
It's not on the
What I'm not hearing, is this a more, are we agreed that the stamp is a preferable way to tax? I mean, it seems like that's what was being said.
Yeah.
Oh, I think everyone agrees that a stamp is a preferable way to, but we're not even sure. They're going to study how to do it.
They can always come and say, would you please undo what you did? But politically, I think that it's just, I'm seeing a lot of stuff happening these days. And I just would like to move this. Forward.
One move what forward?
I want to say,
We're going to implement it no matter what.
implement.
Okay.
And they can always come back, people can always come back looking and undo it, but at least we got this much momentum.
We're the third committee with this,
And the second body, third committee, second body.
so one of the two. The other two.
I think
committees-
everyone left this issue. Oh, what were the other two committee bills? That should be up on our page. Marcia, do you know what the committee vote was?
Oh, the vote is on the agenda.
Well, the show and tell is for viewers at home is a cigarette carton and it has the stamp on the bottom. It reads Vermont 34455 20 cigarette tax. So this is about the size of half of a dime,
Half of
See,
them.
half a dime, and it's packaged. Also,
10 of those come in a carton. That's a package.
okay, and it also has the barcode, so that from the manufacturer, so that's already on it. But also has a stamp. That's a package, not a carton. Right, a carton.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
They're not that big. Don't you have on the board of New Hampshire? Okay. Jim.
Yeah, thank you. At the moment, I mean, I'm very much in favor,
No, it's more.
very much in favor of going forward with this being defined here. Committee. I agree that the process will
If
be.
you want to move, so I'm sorry, everyone's saying this. We have two choices. It's the bill as it came to us or what the, okay.
Trying to address.
Okay.
Trying to adjust this version, which is we asked for the, basically the language in advance. Or if we wait and have this study done so we can see what we're doing, if that's a close enough approximation of what I need to say.
So the question is, do we want to amend the bill according to the language from the AG's office on our page in order to have a date certain that these stamps will be on all these other products?
So which is to say, there's a process that'll have to be undertaken by basically the people concerned about the stamps and the mechanical engineer to figure out how to get the stamp on the product, whatever the product is. And that is beyond this committee. But it'll have to be done in order to get it done correctly. And whether that study happens before or after the bill is amended or not, and I am a little bit undecided. I guess I could say, for the sake of discussion, I have faith that the people that can do this job correctly can do it if we ask to go forward and put this extra step in the bill. So tentatively, not tentatively, can't do that here. I move that we amend the bill to add this step to the process. And otherwise go forward with the bill as we received it. Is that adequate language or is that too wishy-washy?
We'll come back to you. I also have allergies, so I think I'm like not getting things very
So we
clear.
don't have the amendment in front of us yet.
No.
That'll be later. So that'll be the time to move it.
How do we draft? Okay.
If
But
you're so inclined.
If we are so inclined, it is not clear to me if we are so inclined. Yes.
Right.
Are you so inclined?
I want to see the amendment.
Okay.
Okay. There you go.
Also, and I know maybe everyone knows this, like the longer we take amending something, the less likely it is to, like, we are, at this time in the session, we are creating risk. I just want to put that on the table. At this point in the session, we are creating risk by amending further. And and like taking longer, just, which is, might be fine. I just,
Recommendation to do that to us?
the AG's office.
Well, yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, I'm not, and like, again, I'm not saying, I'm not just trying to put all the factors on the table, including a visual example. Anyone, any thoughts? Representative
No, I'm for,
for the AG thing? Okay,
absolutely.
great. Representative Brannigan for, okay.
I'm fine without it because I know we'll be discussing it next year, but I'd
Okay.
love to hear from industry.
Okay. Generally you draft it. Thank you very much. The Retail Grocers Association was here a moment ago and they are not any longer. Okay.
You want to try to get him back because Damien's not available. So.
Sure, I'll text them. Let's take a pause.
Just turn off.
Thank you.